Welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streaming on expertcresecrets.com. Hey, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, not having a clear plan for a 1031 exchange, not having a clear plan to sell your commercial real estate, cryptocurrency, high-end primary home, all tax deferred is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to create and preserve more wealth or help your clients do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and sometimes business building minds in the world where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He spent some time in San Diego, and now he's in the great state of Texas. He's experienced in all aspects of real estate, from acquisition through renovation, management, and sales. And he's owned and managed renovation projects from 1 unit to over 100 units. He and his team help their clients and their partners, as well as teach others how to source, purchase, renovate, wholesale, and sell investment real estate in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In addition, they help investors meet their acquisition, cash flow, renovation, and sales goals through sourcing off-market and on MLS properties. He's a licensed Texas real estate agent, California real estate broker, and California general contractor. Please welcome to the show with me, TJ Kosen. Hey, TJ, how you doing?
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me, Brett. I appreciate it.
Absolutely excited to get to know you a little bit more, and we're going to be talking all things underground real estate business secrets with TJ Kosen. It's going to be a little bit different show than just talking real estate, more like building your business, and we're going to get into some of those here in a minute. But before we go there, TJ, would you give our listeners a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, we have a real estate operation in North Texas. We basically source off-market real estate direct to seller, primarily in the single family space right now. So we do a lot of off-market marketing, direct to seller marketing. And then where we bring value to the seller, obviously, is kind of take care of their problems. Where we bring value to the investors that work with us is really on the property side. We focus on like kind of an individual property basis. We're not locked into one exit strategy. So one property maybe makes sense for a rental. One property makes sense for maybe a buy and resell with a lot of work. So a flip. One property maybe makes sense as like for maximizing kind of ROI and the velocity of money. Maybe makes sense for just dusting it off, putting it on the market as is, and taking a littler piece of the pie. So we really focus on kind of what makes sense on a per deal basis. And so that's the current business. In the past, so I've been in real estate actually since 2006. My first deal was 112 units of distressed apartments in Memphis. My second deal, not to double down on something that's maybe not the best idea, was another 98 units. So we structured that with some seller financing, some existing, what was it? I guess it was a private money lender at the time, and then went out there, did a lot of value add, leased up, stabilized the management, and kind of went from there. So that's the long story short.
Very
There's a
cool.
lot
I
more to
like it. I love the
guess, but
background. Yeah, it's really good, TJ. I love the background. And I love that you dove into 112 units in your first deal. That's amazing. I think that's really wise. But we'll talk about the other side of that too, as well as far as building a business in real estate here. I want to take one other step back, though. I want to go back maybe to the high school days or even the college days. I believe we've been given certain gifts in this life. Some people call them strengths. Some people call them superpowers. I think they're God-given gifts. They've been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what are those one or two gifts that you've been given, and how's that help and how you help and bless people today?
I think the biggest one is, let's see. It's a good question, actually. I hadn't really thought about that. What's really been the biggest blessing to our business and to kind of our life path, probably happened about 2.5, 3 years ago, when it really switched my realization when my daughter was born. 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, obviously there's a 9-month build up to it, I guess. And that's where I really kind of changed the mindset from, I can make a lot of money doing like buying and selling houses myself, going on acquisition appointments, going on all this other stuff. But it gets old. It really gets old as a business model. So where the mindset shift came was, well, let's build the business for the sake of the business, And in doing so, obviously, hopefully we benefit from it too. But it really provides an enabling force for other people to, people that work here or people that are investors. If you're doing more deals, you provide more opportunities for more people, investors, employees, contractors, just throughout the entire kind of vertical supply chain. And that's I don't know if that started in college. I think that's probably more of a 2-year-old thing. In college, dude, I was a little unfocused in college. I got 2 degrees, I got 2 minors, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I'm not one of those entrepreneurs that, C student, crappy, dropped out, hustler kind of mindset. I was pretty good student. Just kind of I enjoyed the learning process, and I think that applied later in life. Actually, something a lot of people maybe don't really think about that much.
Excellent. So enjoying the journey of learning, right?
I think so.
And the curiosity of multiple degrees, as well as wanting to build something that just was more than just yourself, helping and
Hmm.
blessing others. Would you say those are a good summary of your gifts?
Yeah, I think absolutely.
Cool. Now let's dive right into the topic: underground real estate business secrets. TJ Kosen. And by the way, you can find more about TJ Kosen at tjkosen.com. That's TJ Kosen spelled with a K, and it's OSEN.com. So TJ, what's the number one secret to building a real estate business? Go.
Yeah, first of all, finding out what your niche is and then focusing on it, I think is maybe that's two different secrets. But if you figure out each one of those and just focus on kind of one linear thing, then that's the way to have success. Too many people that get into real estate, they start out doing one thing and then they get the shiny object syndrome. They go, well, I can do this too, and I can do that too. And they go all over the place. And really, like the take like a marketing strategy, for example. Most marketing strategies in real estate can work if you do them correctly, but they can absolutely work wrong if you just like superficially touch on them and then bounce to the next one and kind of grift around. So I think if you want to build a rental portfolio, you ought to focus on maybe what your ROI is, what your target like property demographic is, your property kind of profile is, and then focus on building that. And try not to get distracted until you're ready to get distracted. Once you have one solid core business competency that you're really, really good at, then you can start adding on separate kind of, either verticals or horizontals that complement or supplement your business. But start with one thing and do that really well first.
Excellent. So it's just like a magnifying glass. We want to take that thing, we want to get it focused and give it time and give it the energy, give it the effort, so that and it's on a niche focus, right? So that it actually makes let's call it some heat, right? Actually get something moving,
Yeah, I
versus
think so.
just skimming over a lot of different things. Is that a fair
Hmm.
summary?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think absolutely. So
Excellent. Keep going. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, so I guess in our business, we look at ourselves as basically a direct to seller marketing company, primarily, and then look at the real estate as being kind of a subset product of that. So our core business is the marketing side, the deal acquisition side, finding decent deals for ourselves and for our investors, and then obviously all the things that go along with that, dealing with the seller in terms of providing solutions, offering options to them, that kind of stuff. That's a necessary piece of the business, but our primary goal and objective is the lead generation and the marketing side, and then with that comes a lot of infrastructure and operational kind of organization that maybe people don't think about if they're trying to do one or two deals at a time when they buy from a wholesaler.
Excellent. So I think the mindset shift would be we're in the business of direct to seller marketing as the first
Hmm.
thing. Number two, the product happens to be real estate that we're acquiring or solving problems for. And then three, the way we do that is by solving those problems for those individuals. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, right? I always say I'm not in the business of selling real estate because I'm a commercial real estate broker.
Mm.
I'm also, capital gains tax solutions founder. So we're not in the business of selling capital gains tax solutions. We're actually just in the business of solving problems, right? And
Absolutely.
I like the way you put that too. But really, nothing starts until you're marketing, you're communicating, and you're reaching out to others to let them know that, hey, if you're having this challenge, I have a solution for you. Is that a fair summary?
Oh yeah, and yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent. So, what's the second secret to building an underground real estate business, or in a way that's going to help you succeed faster?
Yeah, so that's I think deal analytics is probably the second biggest secret, is knowing the deal analytics with a combination of understanding what the submarket is that you're working in are both really important. So in a hot market like this, especially in the single family space, if you buy a property and you buy it right, it's going to sell. So I mean that's cool. But for folks that are maybe newer in the market that haven't really known anything except for just a really good market, as if things start to cool off, and I'm not necessarily projecting the future because I don't know how to do that very well, but if market dynamics change, then understanding what the inherent risks are with the property, I think are really important. So take like maybe a flipping business, for example. Um, you buy a house and it's got a kitchen and bathrooms and they're pink and they're ugly, but you buy it, right? And it's got all that stuff. And then the first thing you do if you're gonna like actually blow it out and flip it is you rip all that crap out. What's worth like literally what's worth less on a property scale? A kitchen, a green kitchen or no kitchen? Well, I tend to think that maybe the no kitchen is probably worth less than having a green kitchen when you come to like resell the property. So really understanding what the inherent risks are when you get into any kind of business venture, I think are really important. So obviously also on the operational side, understanding the marketing risk about, we're going to spend a lot of money, toss a lot of money out there. And if we're not tracking where it's going and what it's doing, then we risk just burning money and not having an ROI on that. So I mean, those are both like just tracking your stuff and knowing what your actual business is, I think is really important.
Excellent. And then for you yourself, how has hiring helped you to, with marketing, with
hmm
problem solving with the clients, with potentially closing the deals, with creating content, with doing the deal analytics?
hmm
What? Give me your hiring process and how that's helped you to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's probably three stages, more or less, of being an entrepreneur, aren't there? Everyone thinks they're an entrepreneur at stage one when they're basically in the hustler stage, trying to do everything themselves. They're negotiating with sellers. Maybe they're negotiating on the back end with buyers. They're trying to source private money. They're talking to lenders. They're thinking maybe they don't even know what they want for an exit strategy. Maybe they want a burr or rental or whatever. If you're really, again, these are all the mistakes that I've made, so it's no offense to anyone, but if you're really like maybe not as focused as you should be, you're dropping off paint buckets and you're dropping off flooring at your flip properties or your rental properties. You're changing out a doorknob yourself. If you're there and the doorknob needs to change, that's fine, but that's not a business model. Um, so what hiring and expanding really does is, so that's step one, the hustler step. Step two is take it to the business owner phase, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're an entrepreneur, but it means that you start to figure out, well, what can I outsource? The easiest thing to outsource, construction. I mean, relatively easily. I can put in tile. I've done it because I'm not the smartest guy. I like making mistakes first, but you don't want to do that necessarily yourself. If you want to scale and expand. Now, if you want to have a couple rentals, that's a different issue. But what bringing on operations guys and sales guys and acquisitions guys really does for the company is it allows you to free up more of your time, your most valuable resource, for pursuing what your core competency should be, which is actually building the business itself. And building the business again goes back to in my market anyhow, lead gen and scaling the top of the funnel kind of products.
Excellent. Okay, so first stage, hustler stage, doing everything yourself, right? Entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur wannabes, right? Or you got
I
to
think
start
so.
somewhere, right?
Yeah,
We all
it's no
started
offense to
somewhere.
them.
Number two, business owner or starting to become more of a business owner by outsourcing, let's say certain things that are less going to move the business, or they're going to move the business forward. They're necessary, but they're
hmm
not the highest and best use of your time and your energy. And this is,
Precisely.
and part of how you get out of that is get some sales, some operations, some acquisition, sales professionals, and those are all separate, right? I mean, maybe you should define that: sales, operations, acquisitions. How are they separate, or do you have some overlap?
Yeah, well, there's always some overlap. I can share with you like an org chart if you want. It might be useful. So basically, we got and we're by the way kind of stuck in the third phase would be the entrepreneurial phase where you kind of phase yourself out of the day-to-day operations, and that's probably one of the toughest steps to actually get to. So that's what we're working on. That's what everyone's working on, I think. So our first hire was acquisitions because if we're good at generating leads for distressed sellers, then everyone thinks, well, no one can negotiate the deal better than I can, and no one can take care of this lead better than I can, and all that stuff. That's all the mental lies that we tell ourselves about why we're the best at this. And that's not the case. We're maybe really good at generating leads, but some of those leads, if you have too many of them, they're going to fall through the cracks and you're not going to follow up. So maybe we're catching and cherry picking the best deals when we're doing all these different like horizontal aspects of the business. when we hire an acquisitions individual, their entire job is converting leads to deals. And that means that, inherently they should ideally be better than you. And that was one thing that I found out once I started hiring out for that job is they would negotiate sometimes better deals than I would. And they would definitely catch more deals that would, maybe not the biggest profitable deals are the ones that are like catching like bonus deals, but the extra little bitty deals help pay for some of the operating expense and pay for them, and obviously also frees up your time for expanding into the business.
Excellent. So let's talk about that converting leads to closings. I think that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because we're all naturally have different strengths, whether it be, and I think there's really four phases of every business, right? There's the attract, there's the convert, there's the deliver, and then there's the collect, right?
Yeah, I think it's
And
fair.
if you're the entrepreneur wearing all those hats, the business is really owning you and all your time and your energy, and you're probably not serving your ideal client or customer or partner or investor at the highest and best use of what you could be, and you're probably going to fall behind. So let's focus on the conversion part, because there's a lot of attraction and there's a lot of leads sometimes for businesses, but then sometimes
Hmm.
you're right, they're all coming in. And so what was the I guess either in the job description and or the training, or how did you separate yourself from having to be the person who was the attraction and conversion? What is the key, I guess, or either metric or a KPI that you're doing to make sure that you don't fall back into the conversion part?
Yeah, well, on a higher level than that, I just really don't like talking to sellers anymore because they all have the same problems, and I just get really kind of tired of hearing it. So that was more my initial motivation, and then once I realized that, oh shoot, some of these acquisitions guys can actually convert and deal with things better than I can, then it became an aspect of, well, okay, now our next step is maybe I'm a sales trainer where we're taking like sales training program as a company, running through scripting, running through like how to converse with sellers, really digging into, again, like fundamentally the job is it's not necessarily solving problems for home sellers, but it is providing solutions, and providing solutions in a framework that really works for the sellers. So it's not like a one size fits all, but you still have to cater what you are able to do to what the seller's needs are. So then the training goes into how do we train acquisitions guys to do that part.
Excellent. Okay, great. Excellent. Yeah, and it's an art and a science, right? With all of these answers, right? It's not just like a one size fits all. But it is that focus on your role and your responsibility here is to take a lead who has interest and some motivation to actually convert and move the deal forward, and that's going to take scripting, it's going to take training, it's going to
Mhm.
take a focus on that. And when, again, just like the back to the niche part, it's almost like you're niching down each individual's role within the company, like the niche in the beginning, finding your niche to focus on building the business. And as you niche down on those roles and on those focus, naturally, if they're like, if they're a pitcher and they're pitching, they're throwing 150, 200 balls a day, right? Versus an
Mhm.
outfielder who's fielding 200 balls a day, or somebody who's just focusing on hitting, right? They're going to be better at what you put your time and energy in. Any thoughts, or is that a fair summary?
No, I think that's absolutely the case. I think there's a lot of value to being acquainted with each piece of the business. So again, I started out, I know how to lay tile. So now you know if a tile guy is actually doing the job right. Did a lot of acquisitions back in the day. So I think there's a lot of value to inserting yourself into different pieces of the business, and you have to spend some time there. I don't know if there's a lot of shortcuts really. There's accelerants where you can go faster, but I'm not sure if there's really shortcuts where you can avoid really understanding what the different kind of aspects of the business development are. Shortcuts, obviously, I suppose, are maybe coaches or mentors or like following someone else's pattern of success. But how do you know an acquisitions guy is really having the right conversation with the seller if you've never had that conversation? How do you know? I think our like third or fourth hire was operations. How do you know an operations guy is really tracking the KPIs if you don't even know what KPIs you want to look at, or what lists you want to pull, or how you want to do like the I don't know, do cold call marketing or whatever. If you've never done that, then you don't know what that job role entails. So it's a tough thing to really grow uh, any faster than you're able to, almost mentally, and also just in the nature of how the business operates, I think.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Like getting out in front and leading first. I remember I did a first house renovation for my house, and I actually grew up in the real estate business. My dad, custom homes, room additions, rentals all my life, but I still had never done it for my own house. And someone was like, well, "Why don't you hire someone else out? Like your dad could do it all." I'm like, "Well, I really want to be able to do this myself, so that in the future I know." I experienced it even more so on an intimate level, so that when I do hire it out, I'm not getting overcharged,
Hmm.
and B, I'm understanding value, and until you've done that, and what's, I guess, even like defining the win, right? If you don't know what you're aiming at or defining the win unless you've done it yourself, it's hard to have someone else come in and do that because they're looking for you're defining the win. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Absolutely. And a lot of people don't like taking control of their projects. We see in the Facebook forums or whatever on the like renovating side, a lot of talk about contractors screwing over investors and the work quality not being done and all this other stuff, or the scope not being appropriate. And most of that stuff, like obviously I alluded to, I guess before, like spending money on marketing for distressed deals and not knowing if your money is being spent effectively. We're almost what's the right way to say it? If I don't want to victim blame, but if your project goes wrong, it's probably because of something that you had wrong on the expectation from either a lack of experience or a lack of ability to perform whatever the task was. So I don't. There's bad contractors. Don't get me wrong, but if your flooring guy says he can do it for such and such a price, but the market rate for an investor is 30% more than that price, and that's what I have to pay every day to get it done, then maybe you got a great guy that doesn't know his value, but more than likely you have someone that thinks they can do everything that's not going to do anything very well for you. So I think that expectation and understanding of what's entailed in all the different job tasks, and again all across the business side, so from acquisitions to management to operations to the rehab and construction side, I think is very important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And there's a book called Extreme Ownership, right? Where it's at the end of the day, like if a mission fails, it's on you, right? And
Hmm.
it's like empowering your team members to be at the highest level of performance in their leadership and in their performance by setting clear expectations, but by leading from the front, right? And being able to train properly or oversee properly, make sure that I know for me as I grew my business over the years, it's like no, the reason perhaps some of the team members didn't actually succeed or perform in the beginning was because you weren't properly leading or trading, right? And so it's
Hmm.
starting with the attitude that, oh, this is my business, this is on my ability to grow, this is on my ability to be a great leader and be able to train and empower others. And so I couldn't agree with you more. That being said, we're going to shift a little bit to capital gains tax. Just curious on some of your thoughts on the 1031 exchange, because
Huge
that's
fan.
part of what we do. So, for you, what's been the biggest frustration for yourself, partners, family, when it comes to the 1031 exchange or lack of capital gains tax deferral options for highly appreciated real estate?
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, isn't it? I mean, so fundamentally, I'm in a transactional business where we're paying, for the most part, an ordinary income tax, and that's frustrating. In terms of tax deferment, our rentals defer some of our income taxes, tax obligation, I suppose. We've done a lot of 1031s, and I think it's a great wealth and legacy building opportunity. We've made. I think my favorite deal probably is a deal I bought in the bottom of the market. We spent 45K for a deal in California, actually, in Hemet. Put 10K down, had a hard money loan for the other 35K. It's kind of crazy, right? And a property in California.
It
Appreciated,
is.
sold it 3 or 4 years ago, I think, and then sold it for 130 something or another. 1031 that money into a property that actually our company sourced out here through our marketing, and that property's worth 225, I think, right now. So no capital gains tax on that one. That's nice. I don't know, it's fun anytime you can turn 10K into 225K without really a whole lot of risk, then and without the tax obligation, it's awesome. So I think it's a fantastic tool.
It's an amazing tool, right? Especially if you have a deal lined up like that, right? And you were able to buy low and find an
Hmm.
opportunity. The challenge becomes when you can't, or you run out of time or you don't have that thing lined up to roll into that. Have you ever, I don't know, the 112 unit that you bought, and maybe you still own it. But have you sold anything larger and faced the 1031, or is it any challenges with that?
Yeah, that sort of. It's more of a family thing, really. We sold a large property in California back in the day, and we 1031'd out of it. And yeah, there's definitely struggle. What I liked about that single family deal, definitely that you kind of touched on, was we controlled pretty much every aspect of it. So we controlled the sale, we controlled the acquisition of the corresponding buy property. So the timeline wasn't really an issue for us. I guess the issue that people definitely bump into is in the identification and the closing timelines that are set out in the 1031 requirements. So that's always a bit of a struggle. I mean, there's a risk of, I've seen other investors where they get put into maybe deals that they maybe really shouldn't be in because they think that they have to place their money in a certain time frame. So I think there's a lot of kind of lack of understanding about the urgency and requirement for knowing what you can place your money in. I know what on the commercial side, sometimes folks say, "Oh, 1031 money." They think, "Well, that means that I can charge you more because you have to buy my property." So there's a risk to that without knowing kind of what you're getting into. People don't really talk about that side, do they? That much?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We call it the shotgun wedding, right, TJ, where you got to get engaged in 45 days and married in
Yeah,
180. And when the seller knows you're in a shotgun wedding, you're probably going to make the best decision. And oftentimes you're buying something that you wouldn't necessarily purchase if it wasn't for the tax tail wagging the investment dog. We liken
sure.
that to blockbuster way of doing things, but there's now a way that's pretty cool. It's called a deferred sales trust. We liken that to Netflix. There's no more timing restrictions. You can buy and sell whenever you want. You can get a brand new depreciation schedule by partnering with this thing called a deferred sales trust. You can
Hmm.
also just sit and wait till a deal actually comes up. You can do hard money lending. You can invest in securities. I have a client. We just did a $2.6 million deal in Alabama. He sold a business which doesn't qualify for a 1031, and he's building 70 multifamily units, all tax deferred in Tennessee, which is pretty remarkable, right? So it's kind of like you can 1031 out of just about any asset, and you can invest it into multiple assets to diversify. It also works for cryptocurrency. By the way, you can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, are you ready for the lightning round?
Absolutely. Do I get
All
like a cheat
right.
sheet or something?
Yeah,
Are there
just going to
wrong
be some
answers?
fast questions. Just some fast questions. So, if you could go back to your 20 or 25-year-old self, TJ, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Ooh, pick the right market. Pick the right market to be in.
Perfect. Second question, number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I read a lot of history. So actually, I read a really fascinating biography on President George Washington and Benedict Arnold, which I thought was really informative about kind of the formation of the country. I read a lot of business books, but not as many as I used to because at some point they kind of all say the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, very good. By the way, what's that book that you read on George Washington? Do you know the title?
I don't remember. It's on my nightstand. It's just a dual biography on George Washington and Benedict Arnold. Really interesting, kind of parallel lives in a lot of ways, but obviously a different path and a different outcome for both of them. It's kind of a bit of a victim of circumstance, but a victim of bad decision making, I think, on Arnold's part.
Excellent. I'll check it out. I haven't. I've studied George Washington, but I haven't studied Benedict Arnold. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
Ooh, trying to predict the future, right? I mean, interest rates are low, inflation's ticking up. Trying to predict the future and see what's going on. I'm not really sure. It's going to be fun to see.
For sure. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by.
Oh, the long one from Teddy Roosevelt. The shoot, it's long. It's like a paragraph, but the dare one with the boxing and all that stuff in there. The Teddy Roosevelt quote. I love that one.
Excellent. Last question. After all your success, helping all the people you've helped, doing all the deals you've done, and coaching and helping people build businesses in real estate, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
Yeah, family is huge for that one. So we just had my son 3 weeks ago, and then my daughter's 2.5. So that really reevaluated kind of priorities. When I don't know if you can really even grow up without having kids. No offense to people that don't have them, but when you really have something that's 100% like requiring of you, it really changes your mindset. I'm not a big believer in maybe wealth legacy as I am. I mean, which is interesting for a kind of tax show. I think it's important. I think that's obviously important, but I think I'm a lot bigger believer in leaving a memory legacy and in a skill set legacy for other people. I think that provides so much more value.
Amazing. TJ, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts of helping others build and grow businesses, as well as keeping your learning and curiosity hat on to continue to grow yourself, so you can help more people as well. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Facebook's actually really easy, TJ Kosen, or our website, tjkosen.com. Would love to help out any way I can.
Amazing, TJ. Thanks for being on the show. And also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also stream on expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to save a failed 1031 exchange, eliminate the 1031 exchange, defer capital gains tax on the sale of cryptocurrency, primary home, or a business, so that you can create and preserve more wealth. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. And we look forward to connecting with you. Please rate, review, subscribe, and we will talk to you again.